Namaste, my name is Yugank Goyal and welcome back to the fourth segment of this module. We have just seen how India defied the odds, not only by staying democratic but also by doing it consistently across decades and across elections. But here's something just as surprising. Not a single state has broken away. For a region this large, this diverse, this complex, that's remarkable, especially when you remember how many people predicted that India would split into smaller regions. So why didn't that happen? Why have even the strongest regional movements stopped short of demanding full independence? That is what we'll explore in this segment. Let's look at the obvious possibilities first. What could keep us together? Well, some scholars argue that democracy has persisted because people believe in procedural legitimacy of elections. Even when outcomes disappoint, they just think that there is a procedural legitimacy that elections offer. You may not like the government, but you know it can change in 5 years. And so this allows contestation, participation, regional parties thrive, elections happen regularly, states can elect governments that oppose the center. But being one is more than just being democratic. On paper, so many countries are democratic, but does it mean that they feel they are one? Because democracy exists in other countries too, we have seen that they have had violent breakups. So this argument doesn't quite hold. Another argument suggests that India's unity is largely held together by caste. But this simply doesn't quite hold up either. Some argue it's simply military strength, that the Indian state has prevented breakaway through force. But this can't be the whole explanation, because force doesn't work long term unless people broadly accept the idea of belonging. You can't get 1.4 billion people to be united through coercion, not for so many decades. Well, there are other arguments that point to, let's say, political flexibility. India's federal system has allowed for new states to be created in response to local demands, right? Telangana, Chhattisgarh, Uttarakhand, Jharkhand, some of the recent ones. But again, reorganizing within the union is not the same as breaking away from it. So the real question remains, why do people still want to be part of India at all? Because belongingness is not about politics. It's also about what people feel connected to. In most of the secessionist cases around the world, the groups which are trying to leave, they say something like, we don't belong here. We are culturally different. We want our own future. But in India, that language has been very rare. Even in moments of extreme anger or alienation, most groups haven't rejected the Indian identity, the Bharatiya identity altogether. People want dignity, they want autonomy, recognition. But in India, they rarely say, we are not part of India at all. That's unusual. And so what's really going on? Maybe the idea of India is bigger than the idea of state. Maybe the idea of India as a nation is bigger than the idea of India as a state. And here's one possible explanation. Maybe people don't see India as a political unit or a government, a flag or a constitution. Maybe they see it as something deeper. Maybe it's so deep they don't see it but simply feel it. A space they feel emotionally connected to, even if they disagree with how it's being run. A shared civilizational landscape. A feeling that despite differences, they're still part of the same world. It's not that everyone agrees. It's that they still recognize each other. They share certain values, rhythms, metaphors. Even if the languages, customs, and cultures are different, this isn't something that the government designed. It wasn't invented in 1947. It's older than the nation and possibly even stronger. It's kind of an emotional unity built not on sameness, but of familiarity, of sharing the same Jivan Darshan. And this is not an exaggeration. India has had dozens of major languages, thousands of dialects, lakhs of caste groups, multiple religions, countless tribal communities. But India is not held by force. It's held together, perhaps, by how people live. Namaste.